Tonight, fire engulfs courts warehouse in Tonga. Redundancy option for High Commission staff. And police can't quite pin negligence charges. Very good evening. Vigilant Fiji Revenue and Customs Authority officials have intercepted a person who allegedly tried to bring in more than 7.5 kilograms of crystal-like substance suspected to be methamphetamine into the country. This happened at the Nadi International Airport yesterday morning. The 60-year-old suspect is understood to be travelling on an American passport and had arrived from Hong Kong. FRCA statement says during processing, the suspect's baggage was inspected and crystal-like substances were found concealed in a black plastic, stacked in a false walling around his suitcase. FRCA says a number of field tests were carried out by inspection officers and initial results indicated that the substance contained methamphetamine. The matter has now been referred to police for further investigations. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Christopher Pride, has decided to withdraw unlawful strike charges against a group of 6 trade unionists, including union leader Daniel Urai. The 6 accused are members of the National Union of Hospitality, Catering and Tourism Industries Employees Union. They were charged in the Magistrates Court under Section 177D of the Employment Relations Promulgation of 2007. This was in relation to an alleged unlawful strike at the Sheraton Fiji Resort on December 31st last year. Pride says after reviewing the charges and the evidence, he is satisfied that no offence was committed. The DPP's office will now file for withdrawal of charges when the matter is called in court on March the 17th. The National Fire Authority is investigating the cause of a major fire at an industrial area in Tonga today. The fire completely destroyed the court's warehouse and threatened to spread to adjacent properties. The fire had initially also threatened to spread to adjacent commercial properties as firefighters battled for several hours to bring it under control.
The fire is believed to have started mid-morning at the court's warehouse along the Marine Drive industrial area here in Tonga. By noon, police had already sealed all access to pedestrians and traffic as firefighters tried to contain the blaze from spreading to other properties. The fight for authorities at this stage of the blaze is to stop it from reaching the Punjab's oil refinery, which could have been a catastrophe if it did. Fortunately, thanks to quick action by the NFA, the fire stopped from spreading and many of the other properties in this industrial area were saved. The cause of the fire is still unknown as authorities continue with their investigations. Bulletin, Fiji One News.
A family of 8 is homeless tonight after their home was razed in a fire this morning. The incident occurred at Cunningham Stage 4. 3 adults and 3 children were home when the fire started. They rushed out of the burning home. However, the owner's wife sustained burns on her forearm. She has since been admitted to the hospital.
It's my wife and my kids and my mother and my sister was there. So they are safe now.
Neighbors tried to help the family but could not do much. Firefighters were able to prevent the fire from spreading to nearby homes. Investigations are continuing.
I've been staying here for 6 years now, 7 years this one going. Any kind of help somebody give us so we can, move somebody to stay somewhere. Look for the fine to stay. We got no house at the moment now.
The national minimum wage announced last week continues to be a hotly debated topic. Some sectors claim the new minimum wage falls short of providing basic needs for some families. Ravai Fafa'o explains.
There continues to be a mixed reactions to the $2 per hour rate for the national minimum wage. Some claim this is not enough to cater for families. This is something the People's Community Network is concerned about.
Ideally, a national minimum wage should be set against the poverty line of the country because just wages aim to keep people out of poverty and aim to help people meet their cost of living.
The current basic needs poverty line income for a family of 4 currently stands at $186, which means a worker should receive close to $4.70 per hour for an 8-hour day's work for 5 days. government says that social benefits provided by the state, like free education, should be able to offset some needs of those who come under this wage category.
$2.32 was a good start, because he proposed also that it would be increased, within the year. So that sounded not adequate, but at least a good start. But now to find that it's reduced to $2, I think is very disappointing, not just to me, but to so many people.
Dealing with families that live in squatter settlements, the PCN has received complaints from people trying to meet their daily needs and wants.
The people we deal with, are already finding it hard to cope.
The national minimum wage will come into effect next month and will be revised a year later. Reviver for all, Fiji One News.
Local staff of the Australian Government's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade have been offered voluntary redundancy packages. The offer applies to all local TVET staff outside of Australia. This includes Fiji. However, the High Commission here maintains that this is a voluntary process.
The voluntary redundancy offer was made last week to all local staff of the Australian Government's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade at its overseas posts. This includes locals at the Australian High Commission here. Ironically, it came on the week the country marked Australia Day. A spokesperson for the Australian High Commission says this is in line with the department's integration of the aid program. He adds the offer to local staff is an extension of the same offer made to all Australian-based TVET staff. The spokesperson says these staff were given the option of expressing interest in the voluntary redundancy. The High Commission maintains that this is a purely voluntary process and no staff cuts were being made. This process is not expected to affect the High Commission's daily operations. It adds that this was an internal process and that no specific directive on the issue was made. The spokesperson says all offers adhere to our labour laws. While not indicating how many Fijians working at the High Commission will be affected, the spokesperson only says that no concerns have been raised so far. Expressions of interest for the voluntary redundancy are expected by mid this month. Amelia Vunilamba, Fiji One News.
The role and responsibilities of parents have once again come under the spotlight. With the majority of our drowning cases still involving those under 10 years, police are now on the verge of charging parents. As Salitestat reports, negligence charges will soon be imposed as a possible deterrent to other parents to take their roles more seriously.
The latest drowning case involves a toddler found floating in a Lautoka creek last weekend. Similarly, there have been other 3 cases that have involved 3 children below 10 years.
One of the issues that we also saw is that the environment where the house is situated or where the child had gone missing from, it's situated right near the sea or right near a river or creek, and that makes it even more of a safety threat to a child, not only to the child living there but other children. And that's something that we are particularly concerned about.
Naisoro says the role of parents or guardians are under the spotlight here. She adds, although it will be the last resort, parents can be charged for negligence if this is proven.
Looking at all investigations, all cases that involve children, and where were the parents in as far as the role of supervision was during the time of the incident. So yes, that's something that we'll be pursuing vigorously. As of the cases that have been reported so far this year, they are in the final stages where they are now with the Divisional Crime Officers before we forward it to the DPP's office for their final sanction. And then a decision will be made whether or not we will charge the parents for negligence.
Raising awareness regarding water safety, Naisoro adds, is an ongoing process for the force. However, despite these awareness campaigns, drowning cases continue to surface.
That's the worrying thing. We will continue to play our part. That is our role. We cannot have our officers at every single home guarding every single child, to ensure that they're safe. We will continue to issue these advisories because we care about what happens to their loved ones. We care, and also we care about the outcome where a parent could find themselves being on the receiving end of charges of negligence.
The Northern Division has recorded the highest number of drowning incidents, followed by the Western and Southern Divisions respectively. Haliteshtat, Fiji One News.
Still to come tonight, plans for establishment of Asthma Clinic, and training for officer cadets gets underway. Hello again. There's a confirmation from the Fiji Sugar Tribunal that a SNAP audit was carried out late last year by Tate and Lyle. The focus of the audit was the Raki and Penang Cane Producers Association. Tribunal Chief Executive Timothy Brown says they've made recommendations and it's now up to the association to adhere to the requirements set out in the report.
While the sugar industry has no say in the day-to-day operations of the Fair Trade Certified Raki and Penang Cane Producers Association, what the Fiji Sugar Tribunal Chief Executive can confirm is that a SNAP audit was conducted on the association following government's report to its major sugar buyer, Tate & Lyle of London.
The government has raised its concern with the industry. We have taken those concerns of the growers and raised them with our buyers, Tate & Lyle. Tate & Lyle has then raised that with FlowCert. We understand just recently that an unannounced audit has been conducted for the organization.
Brown says this follows numerous complaints and bickering by farmers on the way the association was run in the past year.
While the industry is heavily involved, the industry would like to see that the growers take control themselves. Unfortunately, in their constitutions, their dispute resolution mechanism is not spelt out quite distinctly, and we hope to address this once we have these issues raised and sorted out with the Rarawai Cane Producers Association.
He says with the setup of a similar association in the other two mill areas in Lautoka and in the north, the hope is to keep these associations alive and vibrant so they can serve the farmers as they have been called to do so.
I understand that there are some non-compliance issues that have been raised by the auditors that the association needs to correct. If it is not done within a time frame given by the auditors, we could see the 5,000 to 6,000 cane growers lose out on the benefits they would have should the organization be suspended.
The Rarawai and Penang Cane Producers Association President Gyan Singh was busy meeting with district officers today and will respond to questions forwarded to him tomorrow. Majin Bulletin, Fiji One News.
A clinic for asthma patients will be established here soon. The College of Medicine, Health, Science and Nursing is working with the Health Ministry on this initiative. It's expected to be based at the Colonial War Memorial Hospital.
The CWM hospital has recorded a high prevalence of asthma cases over the years. Last year alone, more than 200 cases were recorded. Efforts are now underway to establish a separate clinic that will ensure timely delivery of patient treatment.
What we've decided to do is very much examine our existing resources and start in a way that we can use the resources we already have and not use too many extra resources. But we also will need some extra resources to buy some very much needed equipment.
Experts say at least 1 in every 4 Fijians suffer from this chronic disease. The individual's perception of asthma is also being questioned.
And they think, oh, it's okay, I'll just take my inhaler a few times and I'll be okay. So people very much underplay their symptoms. They don't think it's that serious. They think, oh yeah, it's just a bit like a cold, I'll just do this, and they leave the hospital too soon, and they often don't take the treatment that's given to them for the prescribed length of time.
The plan is to establish the clinic in Suva first before moving to other health facilities gradually.
Where people who have got asthma can be properly diagnosed. The college may have to buy some spirometry equipment. They can properly measure lung function and lung performance for people who've got asthma. Then they can be properly diagnosed, and then they probably need to see physiotherapists or maybe doctors so that they can learn how to look after themselves better.
Authorities say a lot needs to be done in terms of educating people about the seriousness of this illness. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
18 cadet police officers started their 22 months training today. These cadets will be trained in various aspects of policing, ranging from leadership training to crime investigation and empowering members of the public. 2014 is a crucial year for the police force as well as the country. The Acting Commissioner of Police, Ravi Narayan, also reminded the cadets of their specific roles during this time.
You are chosen not because you had met the criteria. You are also chosen because we believe that you can make the best out of you. You will undergo training of another level, and it will take a lot of heart and determination if you want to complete this course.
Police officers have been told to also improve service delivery. The Acting Commissioner says the focus is to upskill officers of all ranks, and he expects them to lead by example.
As we say, we want to deliver quality service. I no longer expect just any kind of service, but quality service to the community. And this training will ensure that when you graduate, after completion of this course, you are able to provide that service that Fiji Police Force endeavors to provide to the community.
The new owners of the Outrigger on the Lagoon, Fiji and Castaway Island Resort says it will be business as usual at the two properties. Outrigger Enterprises Group Executive Vice President Darren Edmonstone, who also attended the handover over the weekend, says there will be no immediate need to make drastic changes. He says both resorts have enjoyed strong global recognition so far, and this is something the new owners intend on growing. Later this week, a formal traditional handover is scheduled on Castaway Island Resort with the arrival of Outrigger's new owners, the Hawaii-based Dr. Richard Kelly and Dr. Chuck Kelly.
By the transaction that has just happened, we will not, basically it doesn't change anything. The ownership structure changes, but nothing else changes.
The reintroduction of the National Apprentice scheme will need a vibrant economy in order for it to work. The Ministry of Labour is now trying its best to ensure it works out. All this as it tries to balance the increasing demand for jobs as well as the level of unemployment.
You can give people skills, but if there's no demand for their skills, they still will not get a job.
However, Usamate adds that the economy is recording positive growth. He said that coupled with increasing investor interest should be able to cover the increased demand for jobs. But it's not just about securing employment, as the scheme is aimed at improving productivity in the workplace. Usamate says they're also working towards setting up policies to meet the labour demand.
My concern in the Ministry of Labour is that investment must lead to employment. Right? Lead to employment so people can be absorbed.
Vocational training programs have proven to be quite practical for businesses and individuals. The tailor-made programs ensure individuals acquire specific skills required for the labour market. And the following interest in TVET programs at the Fiji National University is indeed a good indicator.
We have over 1,000 applications from all over the country, from outer islands such as Ngamea, Taviuni, Vunulevu, Kandavu, Ngau, the Western Division, and all over Fiji. And I'm glad to say that the gender balance is about 55% male and 45% female. So we're trying to maintain that gender balance in the applications that are coming in.
A $5 million grant is being offered for this program that equates to 1,200 scholarships to upskill young people in marketable areas. Surprisingly, there's been a lot of positive interest from female students.
We have so many young women, young girls in Fiji who are enrolled in our civil engineering, electronic engineering, automotive engineering. Some are also into architecture. So these were areas normally dominated by our male students.
Agriculture, engineering and tourism certificate and diploma programs are the popular choices at the moment. The FNU believes this is indicative of the local demand in such fields.
The government has actually identified the specific areas which are of great demand or great need to the nation in terms of human resource development, especially targeted at our manufacturing, hospitality, agriculture sectors.
Meanwhile, the Fiji National University is drawing on swimming experts in its bid to reduce our drowning toll. Former three-time Olympic swimming gold medalist Shane Gold is back in the country, trying to help the FNU identify a suitable cause for safety in the water, especially for swimmers. Over the weekend, she also held special classes for Outrigger Resort staff.
we're very interested in why people are drowning in Fiji, and so Milt and I have keep coming back here and work in the villages, and we're designing a program that we're implementing in the schools and the university for the school teachers.
Cole's husband, Milton Nelms, also a former coach of swimming legend Ian Thorpe, says when it comes to swimming, instructions need to be very simple and clear.
If you hear a common instruction for children, which is to look both ways before you cross the street, I think around the water, if you have a couple of simple things to remember like that. So really, basically, it's these three questions: is who is going to watch me if I go into the water, and a second part of that first question is, and who will I be watching? The second thing is, how deep is the water, and the third thing is the water moving. We have done a lot of work for about 3 or 4 years with FCAE and SUVA and the LTC, the Teachers College in Lautoka, but now it's combined at the university, and so we're going to continue teaching there.
We'll take a brief look at what's happening around the region. That's up next. Stay with us. Tonga's Deputy Prime Minister Samiu Vaipulu thanked the Government of New Zealand for its assistance in the form of the Cyclone Rehabilitation Grant. Tonga is seeking an estimated $56 million for reconstructing homes in Ha'apai after Cyclone Ian. Deputy Prime Minister Vaipulu said this was to cater for reconstructing 800 permanent houses and transitional houses. Donor partners alongside NGOs and churches have agreed with the government on a standard housing plan for the project. New Zealand Foreign Minister Murray said the initial focus was to assess the damage, getting shelter and water to people. So far, $2.4 million has been spent. According to Macaulay, New Zealand's role in Tonga is to assist with a bilateral development program. The New Zealand government says the funds are additional to the funds that are normally committed to Tonga. Now remember, you can view tonight's Fiji One News Bulletin on our website at www.fijione.tv. You can also watch previous news bulletins as well as our current affairs, business and sports shows. You can now also get news headlines directly to your mobile phones. To subscribe, just text sub space FTV News to 777 and you can get your news and sports headlines via SMS. Charges apply and you can view our terms and conditions on our website. We go to sports now with Drew, and this year's Wellington Sevens expected to be the biggest.
Yes, the organisers are definitely hoping for that, and that's all coming up. Also in sport, Fiji fans flock to Wellington. And the unofficial Super Bowl holiday in the capital.